Good morning, everyone. It's Lynn Dunn from Stamptastic Designs. Thanks so much for joining me today. So, I am working on some masculine card ideas and I have a bunch of scraps. So, I thought I would share just a couple of different card layouts featuring some fun ways to use up some of your scrap designer series paper. Plus, I was kind of inspired to create these cards by some of the cards that my team members were creating. They were using this In Good Taste designer series paper, and I just thought it was just a really fun way to use the paper to create some fun card layouts. So that's what we're going to do today. So I'm actually using the Whiskey Business stamp set from Stampin' Up. So it's just kind of has some fun little sentiments in here for birthday cards and all kinds of different things. So these are the cards that we're going to create today. And I have just some fun ways to use like little strips of paper to create a background. And then this is the scrappy strip design. And then kind of like a herringbone kind of design over here. So let me show you how to make these. Good morning, everybody. So we're going to start with the easy one. Well, they're all kind of easy, but some of them are a little putsy. So we'll start with this one. So I'm using early espresso cardstock for all of my cards that I'm sharing today. So this is the base of the card. It's just a standard card size. So it's 5.5 by 8.5. And then you score it in the middle at 4.25 to create the base of your card. So what I did with this is I had a variety of different scrap pieces of pattern paper. And these are 1 inch wide. And I just cut them all down to 4 inches long. And basically, I'm just going to put them, oops, excuse me, I'm going to put them across my cardstock to create this background. So if you have a lot of strips of paper, and you can do this with any paper, you don't need this paper. I'm actually going to use different patterns here. This is just a great way to use up your scrap pieces. So basically all I'm going to do is just adhere these with my glue. This is a brand new glue too. It won't come out. There we go. So we'll adhere these all the way across, and I'm just going to adhere them right next to each other just to create just kind of a fun little pattern here. And notice how I'm using all different patterns. So because I have all kinds of scraps, which I'm sure you do too. And then the very last piece, so the first 4 pieces are 1 inch wide and they're 4 inches long. And the very last piece is 1.25 inches wide, but it's still 4 inches long. So it's almost like using a 5.25 by 4 inch piece of paper, right? Whoop, and I put it on crooked. Hold on, I gotta peel it off. That's what happens when you're live. Put things on crooked. There we go. That's why I use liquid glue so I can pick it up and straighten it out. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That's all you have to do. And then I'm going to show you a little trick here. I created my little focal point and I put a little bit of ribbon behind it. I'm using some of my early espresso ribbon here. And I just want to create just kind of a little decorative ribbon thing behind my focal point. So now my fingers are all full of glue. Hang on a second. So I just took 2 pieces of the ribbon. I'm just going to crisscross them here if they stop sticking to my finger. And then I'm just using some washi tape to hold this in place behind my focal point. So that way you don't have to try to glue these on to your focal point. You can just tape them on and it makes life a lot easier. And then we'll go ahead and add some of our little dimensionals. So anytime I'm using ribbon behind my focal point, I'm always using washi tape to hold it in place. See, then we have a fun little fun little design here. I'm just gonna trim some of this though. It's a little bit long. Let's see. I gotta trim a little bit more. But this is just a great way to hold that in place, and then you can just add your dimensionals around it and then adhere to the card. I used to try to glue these on, but it was too messy. This is a lot easier. So if you have a lot of washi tape, that's a great way to use it up. We'll add that. And then for my greeting, I basically just took one of the greetings from this particular stamp set, and I'm just going to cut it. I must have glue on my scissors. Just going to cut this into 2 pieces, and then I'm going to add it to my card. Grab a couple dimensionals here. And that's really it. And then we'll just embellish it. So you can use this particular layout, like I said, with any designer paper. So if you're not creating masculine cards, you can use some pretty floral paper. And this would be a fun little layout to use. So whatever scraps you have. And then the last thing I'll do is just add a couple little embellishments here, and then we're good to go. So I'm just using some gilded gems. These are the gold ones. We'll embellish this up. And I'm using my little take a pic tool in case you're wondering what that is. All right, so that's it. So as you can see, you can use this for a variety of different things. All right, so there is the first card that I want to share. And then let's do this one. So this next one, you've probably seen this before. It's called the scrappy strip technique, and I think it was developed by Kylie out of Australia. So I thought it was kind of a fun little way to use up your scraps. So I'm going to show you how to do this. And it kind of reminded me of my sunburst cards that I made not too long ago. So it's kind of the similar concept. So basically you can use any paper. You can use designer paper. You can use cardstock, whatever you want to do. And I'm going to grab my paper trimmer. And so I cut my paper about 5 inches long, and then I basically just put it into my paper trimmer. Let's see, can you see that? And I used the 1/2 inch mark here and just kind of lined up like the corner with the 1/2 inch mark and just kind of started creating little pieces of diagonally cut strips. So you don't have to line it up at the 1/2 inch mark. That's just kind of what I used as a guide. You can make them as large or as small as you want to. And you just kind of keep going along and just cut up that piece of paper that you have until you've cut the whole thing, I guess. Let's see, we'll cut this one this direction. So you just cut all these little strips of paper. And then what we're going to do is I have a bunch of other strips that I cut. So they have different patterns on the front and the back here. So I'm going to use a couple different patterns. We'll mix and match it. See what else I got here. I got a variety. Yeah, that looks pretty good. It's on the back of this one. It's a blue one. And then we're just going to adhere them to our card. So what I did is just kind of you can just start on whichever side is comfortable for you. And we're just going to let the excess hang over, but we'll just start on this side. So I'm adhering this to a 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece of white cardstock. And you just take these strips and you just adhere them next to each other. I'm going to do it this way so that I can adhere them close together. And you just kind of rotate it back and forth until you cover the entire piece of paper. So I'm just using a variety of different patterns. So whatever I had on hand is what I'm using. So it's just another way to use up your scraps and just kind of a fun little design, just to create a fun little design on your card. And let's see, what else do I got here? Hopefully I cut enough little strips. Try to make this go quicker. So this is probably the longest part. The putziest part is adhering all these to this piece of paper. But once you get done, you'll have a really cool look. So, and again, you can use any pattern paper for this. Let's see, I gotta find some different colors here. Here's one. Now I'm adhering these like directly next to each other, but you could actually leave some space in between there if you wanted to. And that would give you a fun little matting behind the design. Oops, I don't think I have enough glue on there. And we'll put this one in there. So you get the idea. I'm running out of strips of paper here. Should have cut more. Hopefully I have enough to cut through this thing. Getting there. And let's see, this one, that one looks pretty good. Put that one on there, and then we just have a little piece. So now I just need a little piece up here. We'll just use this part. And we'll add that there. Okay, so now we have our pattern all on this piece of cardstock. So now you're just going to take your scissors and you're just going to trim all this off. And my scissors is already full of glue, so it's, you could wait till the glue dries, but since I'm live, I'm just going to cut this all off while it's wet. Okay. So I don't know if any of you have done this technique before, but it's kind of fun. I would recommend if you don't want, you know, I'm using pretty small pieces. So if you want to use larger pieces, you certainly could do that. I lined this up, remember, at the 1/2 inch mark. So maybe you want to line it up at the inch mark and use slightly larger pieces. That would be fine too. It'd still give you this really fun look. And it probably wouldn't take as long to adhere them all to this piece of cardstock. Okay. So let me get all these pieces out of here. And here is our design. So this is what it turns out to be. So it's just kind of a fun little design. So if you're looking for something different, this is it. This is a good idea for kind of a unique background. And then we'll just adhere it to our card front. And I probably got some glue on my table now because I should have put something down instead. Okay, so that's the background. And then for this card, I just added my focal point. So you can use any kind of focal point you want. I just happen to be using this Whiskey Business stamp set, so that's the one I chose. So we'll put this right in the center. And then I'm going to add just a little cup along the side here. Do that with some glue dots. And a little bit of dimensionals. I think on this side, we'll add a little dimensional on the bottom here. So we'll add that over on this side. So I just stamped that and just cut it out. And then I'm just going to use the cheers for this one. And which side is it? So we'll add our little greeting. So I'm not using the full cheers to you. I just took off the to you. And we'll just add the cheers on the side. And then, what did I do with my embellishments? Here they are. Then we'll just add a couple embellishments. I can get them up off the thing. There we go. They're stuck together now. And one more. We'll just peel it off. There we go. So that's it for that one. I'll bring back the other one. So you can see the designs are different because obviously I just rearranged the paper just differently, use different pieces. So there is that one. And then I probably should get something down on my table. I have this cool little adhesive remover, so I'm going to remove some adhesive from my table. There we go. That's better. All right, so then this last one is uses up a bunch of different pieces here. So these are all just little 1-inch scrap pieces that I have. They're all different sizes, and that's what I use to create this background. So the key with this one is how we start out. So we're going to start, I'm going to actually work on it in this direction, but my final card will be in this direction. So what you'll notice is we'll start out with this 5 1/4 by 4-inch piece of early espresso cardstock. And then I cut a couple of pieces that are 6 inches long because I need these pieces to go completely across this cardstock piece. So this piece up here, this top piece, is going to come off this corner here, this lower right corner. And then this piece is going to come off the upper left. So I just kind of want to lay these pieces together so that I know how to adhere them. So once we have these two pieces lined up with the corners, I like have the edge lined up with the corners, then we can go ahead and add them to the card. And this will kind of set us up for adding the other pieces. So we want to add these two pieces first so that then we can add the end pieces. It'll just make it a lot easier. So then this one gets lined up off of this corner. All right. So that's the pattern that we want. And now we're just basically going to be adhering these other pieces. I have all these other pieces here, and we're just going to be adhering them like this. So we're only going to be adhering parts of each piece. So do you see what I'm doing? I'm kind of just lining them up. Move this out of the way. Just kind of lining them up. So you need about 4 pieces. So we'll just add, actually I'm going to add it right here. Might be a little easier, then it won't stick to the table. So I'm just going to add my first piece. And I'm only going to be using, just like I said, just parts of this, these little strips. So we're going to cut off all the excess that's hanging over. But we'll just adhere them. We'll switch these and like that. We're just going to be adhering them right to this cardstock piece, and then we're just going to cut off all that extra. And there's that. Now you could cut these off right away and use the extra on this side, but to make this go a little faster, I'm just going to use up some of these other scraps here. So let's see. We got little ones. Here's a little one. And one more. Here's this one. Okay. My fingers are getting all full of glue. That's what happens. All right, so we'll add this. I know this looks like a mess, but it really turns out cool once you get it done. Two more pieces. So notice how as I'm adhering these, I'm just kind of leaving some space in between, just so that that cardstock, that brown cardstock shows through. All right, so that's our hot mess. So that's what we have. So now we just flip this over and we just cut off all these extra pieces. And like I said, my scissors has a little bit of glue on it. So it keeps getting stuck a little bit, but I'll try to cut these pieces off quick. So again, you can use any pattern paper to do this. You don't need to use the one that I'm using, but it does give you a cool little look because this In Good Taste pattern paper has all kinds of textures. So you get kind of just looks like you're using a variety of different textured paper, and it's just pattern paper. All right, there we go. So there's our pattern. I can get all this out of here. So that's what our pattern looks like. So it turns out pretty cool. And then we can add it to our card front. We'll add that. And so I chose that brown so that it would match the base of my card. So that's why I chose to use the early espresso for the background. So then you have a fun little pattern, and then you can just decorate it up like I have here. And I just added my same focal point and just a little greeting. So there you go. Those are three different ways. I'll bring these all back. These are three different ways that you can use some scrap layouts to create these fun little cards. And then I also just created an additional one, and these are like 4-inch long strips here. So they're 1x4. And then this is a 2x4. So I have a 2x4 and I have two 1x4s. And then over here I have a 1.5x4. So I just arranged all those pieces of scrap paper on this card base to create the background for this card. So there's lots of different ways that you can use your scraps to create some fun cards. And I recommend just taking your pile of scraps, whatever you have, and just kind of laying them out on your card front and see what kind of designs you can come up with. So there you go. I know the last couple were probably seemed a little bit complicated, but they're really not. They're just a little bit putsy, but they give you a really nice layout for your card. So I hope you guys enjoyed these card ideas. I will have these out on my blog later today. And if you have any questions, feel free to just leave me a comment. So have a wonderful day, everybody. And I will see you guys again next week. Take care.